Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. Hope you all are doing well. It is the latest live Everton news. We've had a fair bit of news over the last 48, 72 hours or so, including news of takeover talks. They have resurfaced. Of course, we spoke a lot about a potential Everton takeover a couple of months ago. Obviously, those conversations sort of died down a little bit during pre-season, and then as the Premier League season has started and Frank Lampard's Everton team have got underway and started pretty strongly, those talks were definitely muted or had stopped in some form. However, we have had talks over the last 24-48 hours, or reports and rumours of talks taking place regarding a potential Everton takeover by a couple of parties. Conor Coady's permanent deal price has been revealed and released by a number of really reliable sources. We'll talk about that. Everton have also agreed an extension to their deal with Hummel to become the kits manufacturer for another season. The original deal was supposed to end this summer, I believe. However, the extension takes the partnership with Hummel to another year, and obviously they will now manufacture Everton's kits for next season, as well as the training gear and the travel gear and all of that for at least another year, which is an interesting bit of news as well. I've got another couple of little bits and bobs that we will get into, but let's just jump straight into it. How are we all doing? Hope you all are doing okay. It is Thursday. Friday tomorrow, of course, Everton playing this weekend against Manchester United at Goodison Park, 7 o'clock on Sunday night, which is just an absolute madness kick-off time for the Sunday. Really, again, proving that these television companies and these broadcasting companies have absolutely no care in the world about the match-going fan. 7 o'clock on a Sunday is absolutely unheard of for the kick-off time. But here we are, Everton taking on a Manchester United team who are obviously coming off the back of a really, really, really heavy defeat in the Manchester derby. However, prior to that, we're in pretty good form, had a pretty good start to the season under the new manager, and we're looking fairly strong. Hopefully Everton can take advantage of their heavy defeat last week and make it 3 straight wins on the bounce. But anyway, let's get into the juicy news. Let's get into the juicy gossip. So, takeover talks. As I said, these talks were obviously taking place towards the back end of last season and throughout the summer. However, we didn't really hear much about them in the last couple of weeks or so. Again, probably because of just everything else that's been going on at the football club at the moment, the change in form, the new signings coming in and settling in, the Premier League season. A lot of things have been sort of changing at Everton Football Club, therefore meaning those talks of any sort of potential takeover were muted. We did have a report last week before the game against Southampton, which come from Matt Law of the Daily Telegraph, and he said that Mosaic Kaminski and his family remain in talks to buy Everton. Offer has remained on the table and talks have been ongoing since the end of June when the exclusivity deal expired. So if you remember, all the way back in June we sat here and spoke about an exclusivity deal which was apparently agreed or signed between a consortium ran by Peter Kenyon, which involved obviously the Kaminski family, which was to state that they had sort of first dibs on wanting to buy Everton Football Club. That exclusivity deal expired, and we thought at that point that was the end of any sort of potential talks of this consortium, taking over from Farhad Moshiri at Everton Football Club. It seems clear from Matt Law's article last week that the Kaminski family certainly remained interested post that exclusivity deal. Matt Law says that it was not thought to be any other bidders at this stage, and a deal is not imminent. The Financial Times then reported an article on the same day stating that Farhad Moshiri is in advanced talks to sell Everton for around £400 million to US businessman Mazik Kaminski. Kaminski was part of the Peter Kenyon-led consortium that attempted to buy Everton in the summer, and the consortium has now split. So the rumours in the summer We're regarding a consortium led by Peter Kenyon, which involved the Kaminski family. That consortium obviously broke down when that exclusivity deal expired and when those talks sort of came to a halt. However, the Kaminski family themselves split off from the consortium and seemed still interested in buying Everton Football Club and continued those talks with Farhad Moshiri. The Guardian then reported again on the same night, so this story breaking from various different sources on the same evening, that Farhad Moshiri is in an advanced talks with US businessman Maciej Kaminski over a deal which would see the Kaminski family provide funding for Everton's new stadium and take a stake in the club. So that one, a little bit different there. That one almost suggesting that it wouldn't be a complete takeover. It would almost just be an investment for the Kaminski family, maybe leading to a takeover in the near future. And that's all we sort of heard last week regarding that. Everything went a little bit quiet, as Matt Law's article sort of read, that whilst there's incest and whilst the Kaminski family is still very much in talks with Farhad Moshiri, nothing is at an advanced stage, nothing is imminent, it's simply just early stages. Then we had a report yesterday from Bloomberg UK, who are a unbiased, according to their Twitter, unbiased UK news and insight from business teams in the City of London, Westminster and beyond. So, a business page, shall we say. And they reported yesterday that LAMF, L-A-M-F Global Ventures have held preliminary talks with Everton about potentially buying the club. LAMF Global Ventures is led by businessmen Jeffrey Soros and Simon Horseman. Now, interestingly enough, Jeffrey Soros is the nephew of George Soros, who, according to Paul Joyce, is one of the world's richest men. And Paul Joyce reported that Jeffrey Soros, the nephew of George Soros, has shown interest in buying Everton. LAMF are being advised by former Everton director Keith Harris. Discussions between Harris and Moshiri have taken place. So it all seems to be very much coming out of the woodwork again regarding this takeover. Now, what I would say about this is exactly the same thing as I said about the original takeover talks when the Peter Kenyon-led consortium started to sort of come to the forefront, and that is that this is very clearly not in any way, shape or form in an advanced state, and these talks are very clearly not in any way, shape or form, following an agreement or following a deal that has been broken. It very much seems like this is just the earliest of early stages regarding a potential sale of Everton Football Club. Now, when the original sort of takeover talks were brought to the table regarding Peter Kenyon's consortium in June, it was obviously at a time where Everton was struggling. Everton had just finished the Premier League season. It was our worst Premier League season in my lifetime in terms of, where we finished and barely surviving relegation and, everything that went on last season. We don't need to sit here and talk about it. And Farhad Moshiri was very, very, very much in the firing line amongst Evertonians because of some of the decisions that he has made during his time as majority shareholder of Everton Football Club, most noticeably employing Rafael Benitez last summer, which obviously led to Everton having the season that we did and having to be saved by Frank Lampard. Now, obviously at that time that the talks were taking place between the Peter Kenyon consortium, which obviously involved the Kaminski family, there was a lot of Evertonians who were, I feel, were under the impression of, I hope he sells and just sell us because we wanted anybody other than Farhad Moshiri owning this football club. And I remember coming onto the channel and speaking about this and quite, having a lot of reservations surrounding that consortium because of a lot of things that I'd read about the various different members of said consortium, not so much Peter Kenyon, who'd worked closely with a couple of other football clubs in England and made them a success, but other names within that consortium which just didn't fill me with a lot of confidence of them being able to take over Everton and take Everton to the next stage. The Kaminski family being one of those names that wasn't quite up to what I expect from a potential new owner of this football club. As I said, we were at a point then where I feel there was a lot of Evertonians that were very much at this stage of, I don't really care who it is, as long as it's Farhad Moshiri's leaving the football club, then sell. A lot has changed since then, and I'm not in any way trying to defend Farhad Moshiri. Look, Farhad Moshiri's tenure at Everton Football Club has been an absolute failure. It's been an absolute failure from pretty much start to finish. Now, things are going well at the moment, and we're starting to get things right there, I say, with Kevin Thelwell coming in and, doing, the best recruitment that we've seen at the football club in the last 6-7 years, with Frank Lampard coming in and really understanding what it means to be a manager of Everton Football Club, and really understanding what it means to lead this club, with him bringing players in that are leaders, that are battlers, that'll fight, and everything is going really well at the club at the moment, and the atmosphere and the feeling around the football club is much, much, much better now than anything it has been in recent years. And the team is in a much better state now than any state that it's been in recent years, and the feeling is much better than what it has been. So, again, as much as I don't necessarily feel like that is down to Farhad Moshiri himself, I think it's important to realise that we're in a very different situation now than what we were at the beginning of June in terms of the overall feeling around the football club. Now, that being said, as I said, Farhad Moshiri doesn't escape criticism. I don't think that Farhad Moshiri is, as I said, has been a good owner for Everton, and I don't think that the last couple of months particularly changes that. In fact, listen, I don't want to start bringing the tinfoil hat out, or start throwing conspiracies, or if buts maybes around, but it almost seems like this summer was one of the only summers that Farhad Moshiri didn't really get involved in Everton's transfer business. Now, whether that was because he has just completely lost interest in the football club and completely lost interest in the project because he's trying to sell the football club, or because he's trying to move on, I don't know. But it seems like the only summer in his tenure where he hasn't tried to stick his nose in, or hasn't tried to employ his people to stick their noses in, to have some form of say on Everton's transfer business. Every signing that we've brought in this summer, I think it's clear that it's come from either the director of football or the manager, and there hasn't been one that you sort of look at and go, why have we signed him? He's come from Farhad Moshiri. And I'm not saying that every player we've signed has been an unbelievable signing. Most of them have, and you might say, oh, but what about Dwight McNeil? Dwight McNeil isn't a Farhad Moshiri signing just because we paid a little bit more money than we maybe should have paid for him, and he hasn't had the greatest of starts to his Everton career, even though he was very, very good last time out, and he will only build from that. Doesn't mean that he was a Farhad Moshiri signing. A Farhad Moshiri signing would have been us going out and spending 60-70 million on Wilfred Zaha this summer. That would have been a Farhad Moshiri signing. Now, again, I don't want to make accusations. I don't want to sit here and start saying, is he not interested anymore, and that's why he's trying to sell Everton, and that maybe explains why he wasn't really involved this summer. Well, if that's the case, then I hope he continues to not be interested, because, as I said, that summer just gone is the best summer Everton have had recruitment-wise for many, 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 many years, and it's no coincidence that the players we've brought in are having a direct impact on the squad because of the personality traits that they bring, as we spoke about in the review to the Southampton game. The leadership, the desire, the commitment, the energy, the passion that these players have brought to this football club is exactly what we've been missing. And I know some people will say, well, Farhad Moshiri come out in an interview not so long ago and said he's absolutely committed to Everton, and his commitment is to, making Everton a success, and he's not got any real interest in leaving. Usually when Farhad Moshiri comes out and does these types of interviews and says these types of things, usually it means the opposite is going to happen. I remember him coming out one day and saying that he's got complete backing of Ronald Koeman, and that Ronald Koeman wasn't going to leave the football club. About 4 days later, Ronald Koeman had been sacked. And I remember him coming out and saying that the football club had complete backing behind Rafael Benitez. A week or so later, Rafael Benitez has been sacked. So typically what we've learned over the past 4 or 5 years is if Farhad Moshiri comes out and publicly says something, expect the complete opposite to happen very, very soon after. So Farhad Moshiri coming out and saying that he's completely committed to the football club and is got no real interest in moving on, I don't particularly quite believe that. And as I said, is it a case of he's not really that interested, so he didn't get involved this summer? I don't know. But one thing's for sure is this summer has been much more of a success than any of the previous summers during Farhad Moshiri's time as Everton owner. Now, listen, I didn't get excited in June, May, when we were being rumoured to with a new owner, and that wasn't just because I didn't really trust the people that were being linked with buying Everton. That was also because I think we have to be careful of falling into this sort of trap of anything is better than what we've got at the moment. Because as much as Farhad Moshiri has failed as Everton owner already, now listen, he's delivering us a new stadium, and that's a completely separate conversation, and that's something he does deserve credit for, and that is ultimately something that he does deserve praise for, because no other Everton owner has been able to do that in the last 100 odd years. So for him to come in and, if his Everton legacy is that he builds us a new stadium on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey, then it's still some achievement, even though his actual decisions in terms of football have been absolutely woeful. But as I said, I do think we have to avoid falling into this pit of anything is better than what we've currently got, because it isn't. As much as Farhad Moshiri has not got a clue about football and has often put his nose in where he shouldn't have put his nose in, and often tried to make footballing decisions when he shouldn't have been making football decisions, it doesn't necessarily mean that any American businessman with loads of money will be able to come in and do a better job, because we know that isn't the case. The fact of the matter is when you're reading these names like, the Kaminsky family, when you're reading these names like Jeffrey Soros, who's the nephew of George Soros, who's one of the world's richest men, that statement 6 years ago would have gotten us all excited. Jeffrey Soros, nephew of George Soros, one of the world's richest men, has shown an interest in buying Everton. That would have got us all excited, because we'd all be sitting here going, well, he's the nephew of one of the world's richest men, so he's going to come in and he's going to be able to spend hundreds of millions of quid, and Everton are going to be unbelievable. That doesn't happen in football nowadays. There are rules in place to stop that from happening. When Manchester City were bought by a country, there were rules put in place to avoid another Manchester City, to avoid another club, getting a rich owner, and then that rich owner buying everything that he needed, all of the players in the world, all of the staff, and going and just completely dominating football, as Manchester City are doing now. Everton, when Farhad Moshiri took over, was sort of one of the last clubs to have been allowed to spend so freely. And we bollocksed it up, didn't we? Let's be honest. We bollocksed it up. We spent 500 million quid over the course of 3 or 4 summers, and it practically all went to waste. Had we have had somebody who knew a little bit more about football, or had Farhad Moshiri had understood that he didn't know anything about football, so employed people that actually did know about football earlier, then maybe we wouldn't be in this situation now. But the reality of the situation is, Everton could go out, Farhad Moshiri could go out and sell Everton Football Club to Elon Musk, a man worth hundreds of billions of quid, and we could all sit here and go, oh my God, we're going to be amazing, we're going to be called Tesla at Everton, we're going to buy Messi, we're going to buy Ronaldo. It doesn't happen. It simply does not happen anymore, because of financial fair play, because of the way the rules are put in place. Should it be like that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you're a football club and your owner can afford to pay 100 million quid for a player, and that money not be used against the football club at a certain point in the future, then he should absolutely be able to do that. Because Manchester City can go and buy players for hundreds of million, or Man United can go and spend 80 odd million quid on a kid from the Netherlands who's not really proven, or Liverpool can go and spend 80 million quid on a centre half, because their money is being regenerated through their marketing and through their revenue systems. So if you've got an owner who can afford to put a certain amount of money into a football club, and that money not be used against the football club in the future, then it should absolutely be allowed to happen. But the rules are in play, the financial fair play, profit and sustainability, all of that nonsense are put in play to stop that from happening, because they're put in play to stop teams like Everton, and other sides from breaking into that sort of big six. I would say Newcastle, but I don't think it's the same with Newcastle, because Newcastle have got that much money. Their owners have got that much money that don't be surprised if you see a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? An exception to the rule with Newcastle from the Premier League, because as much as they might say, well, we don't want another case of like that, Newcastle's owners can give the Premier League as much money as they want and bring the Premier League as much money as they want, so they'll probably allow Newcastle to bridge that gap and to breach that and that's probably why certain television and broadcasting companies all of a sudden are talking about Newcastle as this team that will challenge for Premier League titles in the next 4 or 5 years, and will challenge in the Champions League in the next 5-6 years, despite the fact that there have been numerous teams who have been invested in heavily, and that hasn't happened, because that's not how it works. But all of a sudden Newcastle are going to challenge for the Premier League title in 4 or 5 years. That tells you that there's a want for that to happen because of all of the money that Newcastle's owners have got. Anyway, beyond the point. The point is that having an unlimited amount of money doesn't work in the Premier League these days, because you can't come in and just spend it. You can't come in and just go, well, I'm going to buy this player for 150 million and he's going to be boss, because then you end up in a situation that we were in last season, where we can only spend 1.5 million quid and we've got our hands tied behind our back. you end up in a position that Leicester are in now, where they've had to sell 2 or 3 of their best players. They haven't been able to replace them, and they're currently sitting sort of towards the bottom of the table in woeful form. So the whole George Soros or Jeffrey Soros or Everton are being, Everton there's some of the world's richest, billionaires are looking into Everton Football Club. It doesn't really pique me interest like it used to, because of the rules that are in play. Effectively, it's not as easy as just coming in and spending hundreds of millions of quid. Also, now, I don't know if I'm alone in saying this, and I may well be alone in saying this, but, there's 56 people watching. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Let me know if I'm on my own in saying this. But one thing I would say is, if Farhad Moshiri is to sell Everton Football Club, if Farhad Moshiri is sitting there now thinking, I'm done with this, I'll get me money, I'll earn the money, I'll make money off of Everton because I've provided them with the stadium, etc., that they didn't have beforehand. Blah, blah, blah. I want to sell. I'm not interested anymore. I don't want to be here. I would rather Farhad Moshiri sold to let's say a businessman or woman who is worth 150 million quid, but has got experience in football, has got experience in sport, has got experience in running a football club and knowing how to run a football club successfully, experience in knowing how to run a franchise successfully, experience in how to take a club from very, very little to a big success, but only worth 100 odd million quid. I'd rather that than Farhad Moshiri sell to a businessman or woman who is worth 100 billion quid, but hasn't got a fucking clue about football, or hasn't got a fucking clue how to turn a football club from, a situation that we're in to a success, and it's just going to come in, try and throw money at it, and hope it works. Because that's all Farhad Moshiri did. He come into Everton, and he thought, I'm just going to lash money at this with no real plan, with no real structure, with no real foundation, and I'm just going to throw money at it, close my eyes, and hope it works. And it doesn't. In fact, we've gotten worse since Farhad Moshiri's come to the football club. We've gotten significantly worse, because as we spoke about on Tuesday in the game review, we lost our identity, we lost everything that it was to be Everton Football Club. We're just getting that back now under Frank Lampard with Kevin Thelwell and these current players, but we lost that for the last 6-7 years. So it's not just about selling to the people with the most amount of money. It's not just about selling to the people who can sit there in a room and promise you the world and promise you we're going to buy Lionel Messi and we're going to buy Cristiano and we're going to buy Erling Haaland and Mbappe. It's about selling to the right people who understand how to run a football club and how to run a football club successfully. And are the Kaminsky family that group? I'm not convinced. And listen, it has to be said, I'll hold my hands up, it has to be said, I don't know an awful lot about the Kaminsky family. I've done a little bit of research on them, and I've done a little bit of research on that consortium and who formed that consortium in the summer, and I wasn't impressed by it whatsoever. I really, really, really wasn't impressed by it whatsoever. The reality is it's very, very difficult to sort of try and compare these people and how successful they would or would not be in the in terms of football, because none of them are real sort of football people. They're all multi-billionaire businessmen, and who have a lot of money and have made their money in different sectors. So it's very difficult to be able to sit here and go, yes, I think he or she would be a great owner of Everton Football Club, or I think they'd be an awful owner of Everton Football Club. Because the reality, all of these people Everton are being linked with, none of them have really got a history in football. So I can't sit here and say the Kaminsky family would be awful owners, or, Jeffrey Soros would be an awful owner. But what I can sit here and say is the mistake Everton can't afford to make, again, is being owned by another billionaire who hasn't got a clue how to run a football club and is just going to throw money at it, close their eyes, and hope it magically happens, because it isn't going to happen. Now, if Everton are going to be sold to somebody who doesn't really know an awful lot about football, then one thing absolutely has to happen, and that is these people that are buying Everton Football Club have to be able to understand and have enough sort of, I don't know if humbleness is the word, but be able to sit there, look themselves in the mirror and go, do you know what? I haven't really got much of a clue about football. to be honest with you. I don't really have much of a clue about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to employ people who know a thing or two about football and have got experience in taking a football club from mid-table to Champions League qualification and challenging for league titles. And the Mighty Boost makes a good point. If I was a billionaire, I'd have no one telling me I can't spend my money. That's exactly the situation that we're in, isn't it? It's very, very, very difficult to turn around to a billionaire and say, you can't spend that money, or don't spend your money there, or don't, spend your money on this person, spend your money on that person instead. But the reality is that, Liverpool's owners are a great example of this. Liverpool's owners bought them at a time when they were in a really, really, really rough situation. They'd just come off the back of being owned by another couple of American businessmen who ran them into the ground, didn't have a fucking clue how to manage a football club, and effectively were there just to take money out the football club. A little bit like what is happening at Manchester United now with the Glazers. Now, although FSG come in I'd had a sporting history and I'd had the sporting background and knew a little bit about baseball, I think it is, that they're in America. They knew absolutely nothing about football. Now, what FSG did is they come in and they sort of understood quickly, right, we can throw millions and millions at this, billions at this, and try and work off guesswork and try and guess what we should be doing and hope that works so we can get all the praise. Or what we can do is guarantee that this will work by employing the right people in the scouting department, in the executive department, in the director of football department, in the managerial department. Employ the right people there and guarantee that they will come in and do a good job. And when they do come in and do a good job, we'll reap the benefits anyway because we'll be making the money. And they're not the first, businessmen or business group to have come in and employed the right people, and therefore it's been a success anyway because they've made their money anyway because the right people have done their job in the right manner. That's what Everton absolutely need to do. But, as the Mighty Blues quite rightly says, try and tell a billionaire how to spend their money and you'll get laughed at. So, I'm not getting excited. I'm not particularly worried, and I'm nothing about this news. When I read it the other day and when I seen it come out and when I put it on our Twitter, there was a lot of people who were very much straight to the sort of get Machete out and get us sold as soon as possible. That's not necessarily, I think, the right way. Listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I completely understand those Evertonians who just want Farhad Machete out the football club because of how much of a mess this last few years has been. But, we do, as John says in the comments, we do have to be careful who we get involved with because there is still a lot of people out there with a lot of money who have not got a fucking clue about football. And we've just seen Chelsea being taken over by an American businessman who's come in and has almost sort of adopted that approach of, I'm just going to throw money at this left, right and centre. Anybody that any of the top clubs are interested in, we're going to be interested in, and we're just going to pay more money for them. And within 3 or 4 weeks of them not having particularly great results, they've just gotten rid of one of the best managers in world football and replaced them with, a very, very good manager and a good tactician in Graham Potter, who may in the long run go on to be a success, but ultimately was a massive risk because of his lack of experience, at that high level, and because, again, he was having to start from scratch effectively. But the whole story around that was, will Todd Bowley or Ted Bowley or whatever his name is, wanted, his own man and wanted his own person in charge, so got rid of Thomas Tuchel and brought his own man in charge. What happens if Everton get taken over by, I don't know, an American businessman or a businessman from somewhere else, and they come in and within a week, Everton have a bad result or whatever, and Frank Lampard gets the sack and Kevin Thelwell gets the sack because these people want their own people in charge? What do we do then, given Everton have just had the best and most, most whole summer that we've had under Farhad Machedi in terms of the players we've brought in, the areas we've improved on, and the characters we've brought into the team? It's definitely interesting, and it's definitely a conversation to have. I'm not going to get too tangled in the conversation, and I don't think anybody else should, because as the reports all suggest, this is still very, very, very far off anything. It's preliminary talks, which are talks before the talks before the talks, and this may all come of absolutely nothing again, as the consortium did in the summer. Again, there's a lot goes into running a football club and running a football club successfully. And, you know, I remember sitting here when Farhad Mashiri took over and being absolutely beside myself. And, okay, granted, I was a lot younger than what I am now, and I was a lot more naive, and I was a lot more immature, and I was a lot more, you know, sort of smoke and mirrors and smoke screened by the whole sort of event of it all. But I remember sitting here and saying to me, Dad, we're going to win everything now, Dad. We're going to be winning the league, we're going to be winning the Champions League, we're going to be doing everything. And we sit here, you know what, 7 years later, effectively in a worse position than what we were when he took over. Only just getting back to that level of consistency and fight and desire that it takes to be, you know, Everton Football Club, because we've lost that. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting that these talks are still ongoing and that these news articles are resurfacing. Whether anything comes of them, we'll wait and see, and whether the people that take charge of Everton are the right people is a question that we probably won't get answered until they're in, and, you know, we're actually seeing what they're doing and how they're running Everton Football Club. Because, as I said, you know, it's easy to sit here and say, oh, you know, they don't know football, or their portfolio isn't great, or this, that, and the other. But until they're actually in the role and doing the job either well or not well, you know, you can't really determine whether or not they'd be good for the football club, and that's where the big risk comes from. And, you know, ultimately, we've just had 6-7 years of that risk. Now, do I think Everton should be sold? Yes. I think Farhad Mashiri's time at Everton is done. I think it's completely done, and I think if he is still here beyond this season, it will only be until the new stadium is built, and then he will sell. But I just think it's an unnecessary distraction to how well things are going on the pitch at the moment, and how well the football club seems to be progressing under Kevin Thelwell and Frank Lampard. And I wouldn't want that to change. And as I said, for those people thinking, well, it wouldn't change because Farhad Mashiri would just sell to, you know, another billionaire. That billionaire would come in and he'd just say, right, you know, carry on doing what you're doing. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. Chelsea were a team who were formidable, absolutely formidable under Roman Abramovich. Whether or not they had the right, you know, whether or not their policies were, you know, the best, and whether or not they were a great company to work for in terms of, you know, if you lost 3 games on the bounce, you were sacked. If you were a manager, that's all for question. But one thing is enough for question is their success was formidable. They were constantly winning trophies, whether it be European trophies, whether it be Premier Leagues, whether it be FA Cups. They are, in Roman Abramovich's time, there wasn't a more successful English football club than Chelsea. You know, okay, it might have been harsh the way they, you know, acted in certain scenarios, but it worked, and it was a success. Todd Bowley or Ted Bowley or Ted Lasso's come in and completely ripped that up and gone, no, I'm doing it my way. And as, you know, the Mighty Blues said, and a couple of other people have said, these multi-billionaires aren't going to come in and go, well, I'll be told what to do. They're going to come in and go, hang on, this is my club. I've just paid 400 million for it, so I'm going to do things the way I want to do them, whether you like it or not. And that's what we have to be careful of. But having said that, you know, it is early stages, of course, and you know, it is only preliminary talks, and I don't think there's any reason to get excited or anxious or any form of any emotion other than just looking at it and going, oh, that's interesting. It's interesting that it's almost like somebody has leaked to one of the newspapers that, you know, from the Kaminsky family side of things or whatever, that, you know, we're actually still interested here. We're still here. We're still on the, you know, it's not completely dead in the water. But as for something coming of it, I'm sure we will wait and see. These things take absolutely ages to sort out and to formulate and to go through and this, that, and the other. So, yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see on that one. But it's definitely worth a talking point. Let us know in the live comments. By the way, 63 people watching. If you are watching live and you're enjoying, please do hit that like button. We're 1 subscriber away from 7.2 thousand as well. So if you could hit that subscribe button, that would be excellent. Let us know in the comments. The Matty Buse says, I reckon Mashiri knows his time's up. It's just his exit plan is Bramley-Moore Dock. Our value will never be as high as it will be when we move. That's the worry for me. He's here till then. Well, listen, we can say that's the worry. And I get that, because that's another couple of years and another couple of years of what has been ultimately a failure in terms of Farhad Mashiri's time at Everton Football Club. But if those couple of years are going to be what we've seen this summer, which, again, I don't want to get the tinfoil hat conspiracy out, but I've almost appeared like a Farhad Mashiri who's gone, I'm not interested anymore, I'm just going to sit back and see what happens, then that mightn't be the worst thing, because this summer it seems like Farhad Moshiri has actually allowed Kevin Thelwell, Frank Lampard and the recruitment team to do their jobs. And look at the players we've brought in. It's been a much better summer than anyone we've had in Farhad Moshiri's time at the football club. So, this mightn't necessarily be the worst thing if he is just going to sit back and not really get involved until Bramley-Moore dock. However, this is Farhad Moshiri we're talking about, and don't be surprised if Everton go in with a £150 million bid for Odsonne Edouard or somebody like that in January, because ultimately he owns the football club and he can make the decisions that he wants to make, can't he? Wonderlaw says, super rich folks, they super rich or get that way at the expense of others, billionaires and that. Yeah, I've said it before and I will say it again. You will not find a nice billionaire on this planet. They are all utter wankers. And that is ultimately that's the state that football is in at the moment. A Premier League football club simply cannot afford to be owned by somebody that isn't a billionaire or a multi-millionaire. It's just we're not in a point at this moment with Premier League football where clubs can afford to stay afloat and be a success without having somebody with sickening amounts of money owning their football club. And the reality is these billionaires are billionaires and have the money that they have because they are not very nice people, and most of them don't have very nice models. There's obviously exceptions to that, of course, but a lot of these people are the way they are because of how they do business, and a lot of the time the business isn't particularly admirable. Philip says Everton Braves playing at the Ocean Gateway Braves Stadium, NFL incoming. 6.7 billion, not million, sorry, says Fat Wallet. You said it, Cameron, says Gamba. Arsenal for life, says Ho. Gamba says in the United States soccer is considered a second tier sport, so billionaires don't pay much attention to it. Even though I live in the United States, my first tier sport is Everton Football Club. There you go. Brian says billionaires are one thing, but venture capitalists are quite another. Yeah, listen, I don't know an awful lot about venture capitalists and any of that stuff, so I can't sit here and have a 25-35 minute conversation about these things because I don't know an awful lot about it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm never going to be involved in that or ever be in a stage where I'm involved in that, so I don't pay any attention to it. Ped knows an awful lot about this type of stuff, so I think Toffee TV done a live at 5 yesterday, or a club call, where they spoke a lot about this type of stuff, and you'd have probably got more conversation regarding venture capitalists and stuff over there. I haven't got a clue about it. All as I know is that most billionaires have got how much money they have got because they're utter knobheads, and most of them are hodl people. Not all of them, but most of them. Philip says, I've just had a quick look at Jay Soros. The guy is sketchy as fuck, posted net worth of 1.2 million. He looks dodgy. There you go. Matty Boo says, you're right, Cam. We do see him on the up again. We've got a lot of positive about us, but I do think he's finally protecting his investment. It's all about the bottom line for Moshiri. Ultimately, he's a billionaire accountant. It's all about money. It's all about his money, what he's earning, what he's making, and that's the bottom line for these people. It's all about money, and money, and nothing else. But the longer he takes a backseat, the better. Yeah, exactly. And if he has taken a backseat this summer, then let's hope that he continues to take a backseat because, as I said, Everton work much better when Farhad Moshiri isn't involved directly. Anyway, let's get into something a little bit lighter and something that is much more likely to happen than Everton being taken over by a billionaire. I'm not saying that isn't likely to happen. However, we had some, I'd say, breaking news. It wasn't particularly breaking because it's a conversation that that people have been having for the last few weeks or so. But it was breaking news last night, and that news was that the deal for Conor Coady to join Everton on a permanent basis was explained an awful lot more yesterday. Various sources come out and reported that the fee for Everton to sign England international Conor Coady on a permanent deal is just 4.5 million. The Athletic and Paddy Boylan reported this today as well, and the deal apparently is an option to buy, which will not be affected by Wolves' new appointment. Obviously they've just sacked Bruno Lage, and their appointment of a new manager will not have any effect on the deal. Paul Joyce said a couple of days ago Everton's plan to take up the option to buy Conor Coady at the end of the season. Coady cannot be recalled from his loan, and the change in manager at Wolves will not affect this deal. Everton's plan is to take up the option to buy Conor Coady on a permanent deal, and that led to the questions as to, right, okay, if that's Everton's plan, I don't think you'll find one Evertonian on this planet that is unhappy with that plan. What is the deal? How much money is it going to cost? What is the fee? Etc, etc, etc. And then obviously we heard yesterday, as I said, from various different sources, The Athletic, The Telegraph and various other sources, that the fee is just 4.5 million quid. Now, we talk about Kevin Thelwell, and we talk about Frank Lampard, and we talk about Farhad Moshiri taking a back seat, and we talk about Everton having a really, really, really good summer in terms of the business that we've done, and the business that we've completed, and the improvements we've made to the team. And I don't think many more stand out as much as a deal to bring Conor Coady to Everton Football Club that would cost just £4.5 million. When you put that into perspective and you actually think about that, that is both Conor Coady and James Tarkowski signing for Everton Football Club. Both 29 years old, by the way, same age as Michael Keane. Really, really good, solid age for centre-halves, an age where you've got, an extra 3-4 years of their career left. Both of them joining Everton Football Club for a combined fee of 4.5 million quid. Now, I've said this before and I will say it again. I've said it numerous times in the past. I don't often sit here and praise Everton for their recruitment. I haven't often sat here and said that Everton's recruitment has been unbelievable or has been top or has been excellent. I haven't. Whether it have been Marcel Brands, whether it have been Carlo Ancelotti, whether it have been Steve Walsh or whoever, I've not sat here an awful lot and praised Everton's recruitment over the last 4.5 years of doing this channel. However, this deal is absolutely unbelievable. £4.5 million for an England international defender who not only is a really, really good, solid defender who has proven already this season that he is absolutely fantastic in that partnership with James Tarkowski. They've conceded the least goals in the Premier League this season at just 7. They've been absolutely fantastic for the last 5, 6, 7 weeks on the bounce. Not only a defender that is capable of going up the other end of the pitch and scoring goals and being involved at that end, but a leader, a battler, a player that is known already at the football club after such a short period of time being here as the dad of the group. Somebody who demands that respect. Somebody who oozes leadership even when he hasn't got the captain's armband on. How many times over the years have we spoke about Everton having no leaders in the team and not being able to pick a captain because none of them are captains? Now there's 4, 5, 6 players that could get the armband, and even when they haven't got the armband, they're still leading. And Conor Coady is absolutely one of those players. Absolutely one of those players. A leader. Somebody who demands that, again, respect on a football pitch. Somebody who is constantly in the ear of his teammates, giving them advice, cheering them up. Somebody who, at the start of the game, is there, clapping and making sure everybody knows what their role is and what they need to do. Somebody that has settled into Everton better than any player I can think of in recent years. I mean, we've had some, we've had some good signings this summer who have settled in really quickly. Amadou Onana, Garner Gay has resettled brilliantly. Neil Mopay settled in fantastically. But Conor Coady and James Tarkowski, it's like they've never not been here. It's like they've never not been here. And I'll tell you the honest truth, and this is the honest truth. When it was sort of, when these conversations were starting to be had over the last couple of days or so about Conor Coady signing on a permanent deal and, that is what is expected to happen, I was fully expecting to sit here and jump on Twitter one day and read that, the clause to sign him on a permanent is worth 15 million quid or 20 million quid, and I was willing to sit here and go, not arse, pay it, don't care. I mean, there's a couple of people in the comments. Jack the lad says I couldn't care how much it is, get the deal done. He also says even if it was 20 million, sign him up permanently. I was fully expecting to sit here and think 15, 20 million quid, sound worth every penny. 4.5 million quid Kevin Thelwell deserves a fucking statue at Bramley-Moore, doc. Never mind the new contract. £4.5 million for an England international Premier League captain with every bit of leadership quality, ability, personality, and technical ability as what Conor Coady has got. It really is mind-blowing. I still can't quite get over it. I really, really can't quite. Whoever sanctioned that deal at Wolves, I was going to say, needs to lose their job. They might have already lost their job if it was Bruno Lage. But if they haven't already lost their job, then I don't really know how, because Wolves at the moment are missing a really solid centre-back and a leader. And they've allowed their club captain, who is both of those things, to leave the football club for £4.5 million. In the pomp of his career, pardon me, I've got a tickly throat. Mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Again, an unbelievable bit of business by Everton. An absolute unbelievable bit of business by Everton. And a deal that Everton have got to get over the line as soon as possible. Absolutely as soon as possible. As I said, not only his ability on the pitch, but his ability and character off the pitch is equally as important to Everton. Not only did we need a solid, consistent centre-back that was going to come in, bring some consistency in terms of, not being injured constantly, touch wood, and, being able to give us 7, 8 out of 10 every week. But we also needed everything that he brings off the pitch. In fact, arguably, I would say we needed what he brings off the pitch more than we needed what he brings on the pitch, in terms of his leadership, in terms of his, personality and those qualities that he brings. And this is a point that you don't have to go out and spend £100 million or 40 million quid on a defender. There's defenders out there that can come in and bring everything you need for, we've just completely revitalised our defensive centre-back partnership. A centre-back partnership, by the way, that will not be broken. Will not be broken other than for injury or for resting one of them or whatever reason. James Tarkowski and Conor Coady is Everton's centre-back partnership. I don't care when Mason Holgate comes back. I don't care when Yerry Mina comes back. I don't care when Ben Godfrey comes back. That is our centre-back partnership, and that will be the centre-back partnership that remains unless it needs to be changed. And the pair of them have cost £4.5 million. £4.5 million. Hernandez says it's also a clear sign of how good of a leader that he is that most of the squad call him dad now. Exactly. I'm baffled by it, if I'm being honest with you. I'm baffled by it, I'm amazed by it, and I don't know when Everton can get this deal done. I don't know if we have to wait till January. I don't know if we officially have to wait till the summer. I don't know if we can get it done now, but whenever we can get it done. Because I know there's no real rush, because from what I'm reading and seeing, it's probably going to get done. Well, it's likely to get done either way. But that is just phenomenal. Absolutely. For £4.5 million for Conor Coady. £4.5 million for Conor Coady. Madness. Absolute madness. It's... And I know it's only early days, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, and I don't want to get too excited, but that could be one of the best bit of businesses Everton have done in my lifetime. Never mind under Farhad Moshiri. He's been excellent, and I love the lad, and the fact that he's only going to cost us so little just shows, exactly, what is going on at Everton Football Club at the moment, and that is that things are going in the right direction. Kevin Thelwell knows what he's doing. Frank Lampard knows what he's doing. That recruitment team know what they're doing, and you can only praise that. Gamba says, that's true statement, Cam. Our centre-backs as of today are good to go without the injury list. Yeah, another goal-scoring centre-back as well. Should be in the England 11 for sure. Yeah, again, I'm not, as I'm sure a lot of you will know if you've been around the channel for a while, I'm not really asked about England. I don't really care about who plays, who doesn't play. The fact Conor Coady doesn't start for England is beyond me, because he is England's best centre-half, or certainly one of. Okay, you've got John Stones there and Tamori, etc., but he's miles better than Harry Maguire is. So how he isn't starting is beyond me. But again, if he doesn't start, then I'm not really into it because it's less game time and it's less chance for him getting an injury. Hey Blue, says Natasha, what's happening? Calling all billionaires, we're open for serious business. The richer the merrier, says Harold. Again, mate, it's not how it works anymore. It's not how it works. And just because they're filthy rich doesn't mean they're going to be a good football owner. Gamba says, anyone knows how much money the Everton board of directors have collected with the sale of James, Richarlison and others, and don't have enough money to get better players? Well, we say get better players, but you know, I think the way we've recruited this summer has been absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Harold says if Yerry Mina gets over his injury issues, then he's still our best defender. He isn't going to get over his injury issues, and he's got a year left on his Everton contract. So I love Yerry. I think Yerry is amazing. And I think Yerry is everything that Conor Coady is as well. He's got the personality, he's got the leadership, he's an excellent defender, this, that, and the other. But the reality is what he hasn't got that Conor has got is that consistency and that reliability. And he's in the last year of his contract and is very unlikely at this point now to be given a new contract because of why would he? Why would he? Anyway, let's move on. Last bit of news I wanted to talk about today is that Everton confirmed a couple of days ago that they have extended their deal with Hummel. The original deal was meant to end this summer, 2023. Everton confirmed that the deal has been extended for another year, meaning that Hummel will continue to manufacture Everton's kits, training gear, loungewear, etc. for another season. I'm relatively happy with this. I know a couple of people aren't particularly happy with Hummel and are maybe wanting a sort of bigger name and a more notable name for when we move into the stadium, etc. That might still happen, of course, because it's only a 1-year extension. It's not like a 3-4 year extension. I actually think the design of Hummel's kits have been absolutely excellent. I don't think they've made a bad one yet. They've made a couple of questionable ones, but I don't think they've particularly made a bad one yet. And yeah, another season, again, more stability, again, another opportunity for Hummel to prove themselves, and if they want that sort of longer-term contract, to prove it as well. Do I think Hummel will be here for the long term? Probably not, because I think when we move into that new stadium, you know, obviously the whole sort of business side of things are going to grow, and Everton are going to become a much more attractable sort of prospect for bigger companies, so we may be looking to attack one of them, but for now, happy with Hummel. I think all of the work they've done so far, kits-wise, design-wise, has been good. I think the training gear is the best it's been for a while. I think the loungewear is very good and comfortable as well. So I have no big issue with that. Anthony says, it happens, great. The more you go on about the price, the way he's playing for us, price could go up by January. I don't think the price can go up, because that is the set price. It's £4.5 million. He could be absolutely unbelievable. The price won't move, because that's what the option to buy is. It's not like they've said, yeah, we'll give you them for that money. That's the option. That's what it's in contract. So that's how much he's going to cost Everton. Glenn says, Cam question. Well, I should hope it's a question for me, because I'm the only one here, mate. Iwobi has gone from flop to top nomination for Player of the Month under Lampard. What other players would you like to see a similar improvement this season? Well, it's difficult, really, isn't it? Because you could say Damari Gray, but I think he's had a good start to the season. You could say Anthony Gordon, but I think he's had a decent start to the season. I would be inclined to say the likes of Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate, but it's going to be very difficult for them because, as I said, how are they getting into this Everton team at the moment? I'll say Dwight McNeil. Because I think he's the one that is more likely to get in, and we need to see more from. Anyway, look, we are going to leave it there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please be... Oh, Tom Davis, actually. Gamba says Tom Davis. Tom Davis is a good shout. Tom Davis is a really, really good shout. We are going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed this live stream, please do hit that like button. It would mean a massive, massive amount to me. We will be back tomorrow with the game preview to Everton's Premier League fixture against Manchester United, so don't forget to join us for that one. Massive thank you to everybody for watching in the live comments. I really, really do appreciate it, and if you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below. But there you go, let us know your thoughts. What do you think on Everton's potential takeover? Are you happy? Are you not happy? Are you not particularly fussed at the minute? What are your feelings on Conor Coady's permanent price of just £4.5 million? And are you happy with Hummel for another year? Let us know. Big thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.